Hey guys, welcome to A Little Bit of Monica. Today I am going to be recapping my visit to the Harrisburg Book Festival, which is mostly going to turn into a book haul from the last couple of days. Over this past weekend, the Harrisburg Book Festival has been taking place at one of my favorite local indie bookstores, Midtown Scholar, and they had a really fun, exciting group of authors coming this year that were spread out over a couple different days where they were going to be speaking, doing signings, things like that. And out of the list of authors, there were a few that I was really excited to meet, some of which I haven't read their books, but they've been on my TBR, and one author who I did read their book and I was very excited to meet them. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of a wrap up of what the weekend looked like, which will also be me showing you which books that I got from this event. So the first event that I went to was Thursday night, the 19th, I think. First things I'll show you are the books that I got from the tent book sale. So right outside the bookstore in like the middle of the street, they literally closed down a street to set up this giant tent so that they could sell a bunch of used books, and they were priced really cheap. So there were $1 mass market paperbacks as well as just some other random $1 ones. Regular paperbacks were $2 and hardbacks were $3. Now I will say, after browsing the selection, I did not recognize much of anything from this entire sale. Now there were quite a few mass market paperbacks of some like well-known authors that are not in my preference of reading, but at least authors that I recognized their names. But for the vast majority, I didn't know any of the books that were there. I want to say that like at least 50% of the books I saw, I think, were cookbooks. And there were some like random knitting, crocheting, quilting books. At one point I even saw like a Chrysler vehicle repair guide. And at this point I'm like, what are these books? But a lot of them were really old, the kind of books that like you feel like they're gonna disintegrate in your fingers. And some of them were not in English. So it was just a really big variety of books that were available. And so it was kind of hard to parse through all of them. But I did end up picking up 4 books from the tent sale, and they were each $1. So I only spent $4 at this tent sale. So the 4 books that I got was Prey by Michael Crichton. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know a whole lot about the book. It sounded kind of interesting, and I looked it up on Goodreads, and it had some pretty decent reviews. And so I decided to give this one a shot. Again, it was $1, so not a huge sacrifice. The back is pretty short, so I'll just read that. It says, in the Nevada desert, an experiment has gone horribly wrong. A cloud of nanoparticles, microrobots, has escaped from the laboratory. This cloud is self-sustaining and self-reproducing. It is intelligent and learns from experience. For all practical purposes, it is alive. It has been programmed as a predator. It is evolving swiftly, becoming more deadly with each passing hour, and every attempt to destroy it has failed, and we are the prey. This sounds really interesting, kind of like sci-fi, maybe horror, maybe thriller. I'm not quite sure where this would fit, but it sounds really good. One of the blurbs does say that it's a page-turning triumph, that this is how to write a thriller. So I guess this does count as a thriller, but it does kind of have like sci-fi, maybe like horror elements. So I don't know when I'll get to this, but it did sound interesting, and for $1, like I will give it a try. Even if I don't love it, it was $1. So that was the first book I picked up. Actually, that was the last book I picked up, like right before I checked out. But that is the first book that was on my stack. The second book I picked up is Cat on the Edge by Shirley Russo Murphy. And this book I picked up because it had the word cat on it. And then when I picked up I only saw the spine and it said Cat on the Edge. I'm like, I wonder if this is about a cat. So I picked it up, and like look at the cat. It made me laugh so hard. This cat sounds really interesting. It's been quite a week for Joe Gray. First, the large, powerful feline discovers that, through some strange, inexplicable phenomenon, he now has the ability to understand human language. Then he discovers he can speak it as well. This is a cat who can speak now. It's a nightmare for a cat who'd prefer to sleep the day away carefree, but Joe can handle it. I love that this cat's name is Joe. That is, until he has the misfortune to witness a murder in the alley behind Jolly's Deli, and worse, to be seen witnessing it. With all of his 9 lives suddenly at risk, Joe's got no choice but to get to the bottom of the heinous crime, because his mouse hunting days are over for good unless he can help bring a killer to justice. This just sounded really funny to me. The top, like, quote on the back says, "I witnessed a crime and someone is following me. When I get this sorted out, I'll be home. I'm still your cat." I'm assuming that must be like the note that the cat leaves for its owner or something. It does sound like this author has written a couple other books about cats. I'm not sure if they're all cat investigators, but I think they are, because this does say the first Joe Gray mystery. And the first page says Joe Gray PI. I have no idea what this is gonna bring, but it sounded really funny. And the cat image, it's like one of those like low quality paintings. It just like looked really funny. So I grabbed it for no other reason than the cat. The next book that I picked up is a great short stories collection, and it's adventure and romance, which is the only reason why I opted to pick this one up. It's one of the like old, the pages are very yellowed and the binding is like super fragile, so I don't even know how old this is. Copyright 1906. Copyright 1906. This is volume 3. So I don't know about volumes 1 and 2, but just from opening it up, it does look like there are quite a few short stories in here. And some of them I even recognize the authors. I mean, like Robert Louis Stevenson, Rudyard Kipling, Charles Dickens, Nathaniel Hawthorne, people like that. Like there are some well-known authors in here. I should probably recognize more of the names than I even do, but I don't really read a whole lot of short stories, but I've been trying. So these are going to be really old and I don't know if I'm going to like any of them, but for $1, I figured why not give it a shot. And finally, the 4th book I picked up from the book sale is courtesy of our Sprint conversations as of late and the world discovering that I am a huge fan of all things spaghetti and pasta related. So I bought a cookbook for pasta sauces. I flipped through it just a little bit and some of the recipes actually sound really good and they don't seem too difficult, which I was a little bit worried about because if it takes too many ingredients, I'm going to be too lazy to do it. But some of these don't seem terrible and I love pasta. So like, the more sauces, the better, right? I don't know. But I'm gonna add it to my recipe shelf. I have like a whole shelf of cookbooks and I'm gonna add this to the collection so that hopefully if I ever run out of ideas of what pasta sauces to make, I know exactly where to go. And for $1, again, $1, I couldn't pass this up. I love spaghetti and I love pasta far too much to let a $1 pasta recipe book go to waste. So the tent sale was only a part of the Harrisburg Book Festival. Another big part is all the authors that they had, and they had different nights set up for some of the authors to come and talk and then have signings afterwards. So I ended up going to 2 days worth of events at the bookstore. The first one I went to with my sister, and we went to listen to Chloe Gong and Alex E. Harrow talk. And it was moderated by Eric Smith, and it was such a fun evening. They were so fun to listen to and hearing them talk about their books. I love hearing authors talk about their books because they are so excited about it. And I haven't read anything from any of those 3 authors, but I have heard good things about all of them, and so I'm really looking forward to reading them. The book I bought from Chloe Gong is Immortal Longings. I have heard mostly really good things about this, so I am excited to give it a shot. She said it was her adult debut because everything else she's written has been YA, so that's kind of interesting, and I'm interested to see what this feels like. I love that my overhead light is making this reflect really, really nicely. From what I understand of what she was talking about, and again, she didn't go into like too much detail because spoiling it for people who haven't read it, but from what I understand from what she was talking about it sounds like this is an Antony and Cleopatra retelling. I feel like she does kind of like Shakespearean retellings a lot with her books. And I believe this book is about like a competition or like set of games that the characters are going to participate in. And so I'm really excited for this. And here is where she signed the book for me. After the talk is over, they like start a line and you can like go through and meet the authors and everything. And it's so much fun. So I also did the same thing for Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This one, she's just talking about so much about the like gothic theme of it. The cover is beautiful. I like am obsessed with the cover here. And I am just really excited to get to this one. I haven't read anything from her before, but hearing her talk about this book, again, like it just makes you want to read them when they are so excited about the books that they've written. I actually feel like she didn't talk about the plot of this book at all that night, so I like don't really know what this is about other than it's kind of historical, kind of fantastical, and a lot of gothic. That's really all I've got. Like she talked a lot about the vibes, not necessarily the plot. The third book that I got, I actually didn't get that night, but Eric Smith was moderating the talk from that Thursday night, and he has a new release, and this book is not actually available for like purchase yet, except for at the Harrisburg Book Festival because he was there and was signing copies. But it is With or Without You. They have like the signed sticker right over the title, which is whatever. But With or Without You, this book sounds so funny. It's like Romeo and Juliet, but the opposite almost, because instead of fake dating, it's fake hating. And I kind of am like obsessed with finding out where the story is gonna go. I believe it's YA romance, and the characters are from Philly. Their families have rival Philly cheesesteak trucks, like food trucks, I think. And their families have this public rivalry where the characters hate each other, but they don't actually. Then they are like invited onto a reality show and they have to pretend to hate each other in front of everybody. And that's super stressful. So like it sounds really fun and I am excited to read this. But again, I didn't actually buy it that night. I picked it up when I went back on Saturday so that I could get my next book signed that I had already pre-ordered. So this was a later purchase, but I am still really excited to read it. The reason that I went back a second time was so that I could get Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This book I did read a couple of weeks ago, buddy reading with Michelle, and I loved this book. This book was really, really popular on TikTok, and so I fell into the temptation to read it. And honestly, it did not steer me wrong. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. Could I tell that it was a very TikTok popular book? Yes. However, that didn't take away from like the giggling, kicking my feet, screaming kind of feeling of reading this grumpy boss sunshine assistant story with like a really, really good morally gray character. The villain, it's like you love him even though you're supposed to hate him. Like he's awful, but like, is he really? So I loved this book and I loved getting to meet Hannah. She was so nice and there was no line, so I ended up being able to just walk right up to the table and say hi to her, and I had her personalize the book, so she did sign it to me, which was so sweet. And then we got a picture, and I'm pretty sure her mom was the one that came over to take the picture for us. She was so nice, and honestly, like, I could not stop talking about how much I loved this book. It was so good, and it was just like such a fun time to read. This like fantasy romance, oh, it was just so good. Like I can't even stop thinking about it. And the fact that it has sprayed edges and the red is so pretty. Like I'm just obsessed. Like I love this book. So like if you are tempted to read it, please do, because it was just such a good time. Like it was a good time. And then finally, the last thing that I picked up at the bookstore was something that I haven't actually picked up from a bookstore before, but I'm really excited. I did a blind date with a book. They had a whole shelf with a bunch of books that are wrapped in brown paper, and they're like marker written on a brief description to help you decide if it's something you would want. This is literally the first book my eyes even like laid sight on, and immediately I picked it up and did not put it back down. It is very thin, so it's a short book, but I don't know what it is yet. I'm gonna open it here. But it says, When Weather Makes a Town Go Crazy. I would like to give you a fun fact about me. When I was in high school, I briefly considered becoming a meteorologist because I have like a really weird fascination with storms, specifically tornadoes, but I have this just weird interest in storms and the weather. I quickly gave up on that dream of being a meteorologist because I realized I had to do like a lot of science in order to get to the point where I could be like a storm chaser. I really wanted to just be in the field like reporting on storms and like being in the middle of a tornado. But you have to do all the science to get there, and I like didn't want to do that. I did not super love science classes. So I gave up on that dream pretty quickly, but that doesn't mean that I don't love storms still. So when I saw that this was about weather, I literally did not put the book back down. So we're gonna go ahead and open this book. We're gonna see what it is because I cannot wait. And I love this idea of the blind date with a book. I know that's becoming a lot more popular and it's just so fun. I don't think like, I don't have a lot of books that are this like size. So I'm almost positive that I don't already have this, which is really exciting. So without further ado, this is really funny, actually. It's Stephen King, The Mist. That's actually really funny that I ended up getting a Stephen King book in my blind date with a book. I do have a few Stephen King books, but I don't have this one. So that is really fun. I have seen this book before, but I didn't know what it was about. And now that I know it's about a thunderstorm, and an impenetrable mist descends on the military facility in Maine. This sounds really interesting. So I am actually really excited for this. It's kind of funny. I was kind of hoping that it would be like an author that I wasn't super familiar with or a book that I literally had never heard of. So I think it's funny that it is literally Stephen King, although they might do that because it's a little safer that people aren't getting books that are totally out there. But yeah, I'm really excited for this. So I consider that a successful blind date with a book, even though I haven't read it yet. It's Stephen King, so I'm sure it can't go too terribly wrong. But with all that, those are the books that I picked up from the Harrisburg Book Festival, all the signed copies that I have, and all the really exciting meetings that I got to go to, you know, author signings, and even just like hearing them talk. Plus, it was just so fun to be around so many other book nerds, just people all over the place who love reading and are there for all the different reasons, and I loved that. There were people of all ages. They had children's events, they had older adult events, they had things for every genre. Like, these are just the events that I went to because I was interested in the authors, but they had stuff all week long. Like, I think it went from Wednesday to Sunday or Monday maybe. It was like multiple days, and they had a little bit of something for everyone. So that was so much fun, and they said it was their 11th year, I think. So I am really excited for next year to be the 12th year, and I can go back now that I know that it's happening. And yeah, this was so much fun. Please let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, if you have read them, or maybe you're excited to read them too. I know some of them are pretty recent releases, so maybe you haven't read them yet, but you're excited to. Let me know that too. And I am looking forward to being able to dive into some of these books hopefully pretty soon. But until then, please make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!